You can't take criticism without even trying to protect your ego. You know, usually there's two things that most people can't take responsibility for. It's number one, how much money they have in their bank account, and number two, their weight. In the year 2022, if you still can't figure out how to make money, shame on you. Now, let me make a very, very important caveat, because there's a lot of people I know who don't make much money and they're genuinely happy. They love their situation, they love their life, and I can see it in their eyes. You know, you can tell a lot when you actually look someone in the eyes. And you can tell, are they saying this just to cope with their situation, or do they truly mean what they say? And they're like, yeah, like I make more than enough money. I feel like I'm happy with my life. And to those people, I salute you. And I don't believe it's in everyone's destiny to become a multi-millionaire. No, you don't understand. It's my metabolism, or it's this thing, or there's this special reason why I'm different compared to everyone else out there. And I know these people live a very sad existence because they have to look themselves in the mirror every single night and be okay with the fact that they lie to themselves. The most important on earth, they lie to themselves. And everyone has their flaws. I'll give you a perfect example all the time. I drink. I enjoy a drink. You know, sometimes I don't drink for a few weeks. Sometimes I drink every single day in a week, especially when I'm abroad traveling with friends. It is not good for me. No one is going to try to pretend that drinking alcohol is good for me. Well, at least when I'm drinking, I'm not there making 101 excuses why I can't stop, or why actually, you know what, maybe drinking is actually kind of good for you. Like, no, I just say, hey, I'm drinking. I know it's bad for me. I accept that it's bad for me. And in this situation, I have decided that the pros outweigh the cons, but I've made this decision to drink on this particular day, and I'm okay with it. That is me being able to unemotionally assess my situation. I've had many friends go, hey, I think you shouldn't smoke cigars. They're not good for you. And I'm like, I understand there's health implications, but it's one of those things that I'm going to keep doing. But the point is, when someone gives me that sort of criticism or constructive criticism, I can look at things objectively and I can assess the situation without getting triggered, without feeling a person's attacking me, without feeling that I'm fundamentally a bad person or I'm flawed. Just look at things critically. So the first reason you're poor is because you cannot look at your life critically without your little ego getting shattered. And speaking of identity is kind of a funny thing in 2022, because I feel as though in the world right now, everyone kind of accepts you can change your identity and you can shift your identity. You know, you could be a fan of one sport and then the next year, you know, start getting a keen interest in another sport, and then now you identify as a fan of that sport. You could be very into street style and identify as someone who dresses a little edgier, and then the next year you change your identity to someone who dresses a little bit more on the classic side. I mean, look, we're even in a situation where some people wake up on a Tuesday without changing anything about their physical appearance and decide, you know what, I am now the opposite gender. I've done nothing to my body, but I just identify as the opposite gender now. So let's get this straight. I can wake up tomorrow and I can identify as a girl, change nothing about me, and the woke liberals will give me a round of applause and go, you go, you know, empowerment. But if I told someone, hey, you can wake up tomorrow and stop identifying as poor, start identifying as rich, they would crucify me. So as I said, let's really unpack that. The modern world believes that, you know, your gender, that's an identity and you can just wake up and change that. But your financial situation, you know, that's not, you don't identify as poor. All those people who have no money, they don't identify as poor. How dare you? It's just a very funny world we live in, huh? You need to understand that your financial situation is 100% an identity. Now, bear in mind, 200 years ago, I would not have said the same thing. I mean, really, ever since 1840 or something like that, when the Bible actually got translated from Latin into English, you know, basically ever since like the last 500-ish years, information has started becoming democratized. You know, people can pick up books and they can start reading. But the point is, even let's say 100 years ago, it wasn't the way it is now. The way it is now, literally everyone watching this can log online and get the same information that someone else used to go on to make $1 million, $10 million, $100 million. They have access to that exact same information, yet they're stuck in the same place. So you must ask yourself, why? And that is because you 100% identify as someone who is poor. It is lodged very, very, very deep in your subconscious mind. And by the way, I know what that's like. My first ever tattoo right here that I got at the age of 16. It says, my cup runneth over, which means I have more than I need. The reason I got that was because my mom, growing up, she also used to tell me, take as much as you can, because you never know when you're going to get any more. That is the programming of someone who is poor. And I love my mother to bits. She's the reason I started my business. She's the only reason I worked as hard as I did to get us out of our financial situation. But until I got this tattoo on me, until I got a reminder that I have more than I need, I am abundant. You know, it's funny, I got this tattoo literally maybe 2 months before my agency really started to take off, and I was basically able to drop out of school, support me and my mom. So you need to understand that a lot of these things that are in your subconscious mind, can be programming from your parents. You know, you could have been grown up being taught that money is the root of all evil. People who cheat and lie are the ones who get money. Whatever it is, and by the way, whoever taught you that stuff, a lot of times it can be a defense mechanism for them. My mother was the youngest of 7 children in the Soviet Union. So when she said, take as much as you can because you never know when you're going to get any more, you need to understand, growing up in the 80s and early 90s in the Soviet Union era, that is a true statement. So you learn and you get programmed with these things from a young age. And then unfortunately, it becomes this cancerous thought for the rest of your life. So just like the first point, you should be able to look at your situation and unemotionally evaluate that you are not where you want to be financially, yet you should still be able to wake up the next morning and instantly identify as rich, instantly identify and embody the characters and the mindset and the trait of the version of you that is financially abundant. When you change your identity, you change your life. One of the big issues why people do not change their identity or their money beliefs is because they believe that money is scarce, when quite frankly, it's not. When you believe money is scarce, you try to hoard it, and the issue is when you try to pull something in by force, it just pushes it away. Instead of trying to pull in money by force, instead you must attract it. You've been taught your entire life, you know, money is this very scarce item, so you have to be very careful around it and all this stuff, when unequivocally that's not true. All you need to do is look at the money printing they've been doing the past couple years. And by the way, past few years have been exaggerated. It's still been going on for 100 years now. You know, I say this all the time, but look at the inception of the Federal Reserve. You know, understand, where does money come from? That $100 bill that you're holding, who created that? Was it the government? Because it wasn't the government, but look into it. So we live in this world where you've got private investors that own the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve then gets to print money that the government borrows. And then the best part is a lot of that flows to the banks. So you've got this funny money that's backed by nothing. And the best part is then it gets sent to the banks, where they use something called fractional reserve banking, which means they only need to hold a reserve. A tiny fraction of those funds need to be held in reserve. So then they can take that funny money and multiply it many, many times over.